Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 102, recording on Thursday, August 7th. Just got back inside to the TCO Performance Center after practice. Going to give some thoughts. Today's episode is a trusty Q&A. Haven't done one in a while. Wanted to hear some of you guys' curiosities, questions, thoughts, concerns, all of that. We will begin, of course, with JJ McCarthy, and then we'll get into everything. The pass rush, the defense, players who aren't getting talked enough about. Anything and everything. There's a state fair question. We got Jersey Mike's questions all over the place. So please stay tuned for the Q&A portion. If you've missed it, over at theathletic.com, been rolling with stories all week. On Monday, had observations. Tuesday, an Okuda story. Wednesday, worked with Ted to Win, the film guru, on a Brian Flores defense kind of deep dive. So you guys will probably really enjoy that. And then got some stuff cooking for next week that should be pretty interesting. So stay tuned to The Athletic. That's where I do my day job covering the Minnesota Vikings. If you're new here, we do this 2 times a week. It's a way for me to speak directly and love the fan thoughts, love the fan interactions, part of what has made this job so fun. If you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart, you can rate and review and do all that good stuff as well. This show is presented by First Resource Bank. It's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. They've got branches all over the place, probably one in whatever suburb you live in. And it's run by Vikings fans, Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, Charlie Anderson. They care about the community and just really good people. A great online banking platform, so cannot recommend them enough. All right, let's get right into it. Not going to waste any time. You guys need answers, need thoughts, so we're just head first, deep dive. Here we go. The first question comes from the always trusty, the always faithful Nick Miller. He is an avid listener. He cares a lot about this team, and he's always good for a question. And he asked something that a lot of people want to talk about. What do we make of all the swirling national narratives about JJ McCarthy? And somebody else asked about the national media, and so this was a common question. I'm just using this as the jumping off point. I've seen the stuff. I'm online probably too much than my parents or friends or marketing director or anybody would prefer. But I am online, so I see it. I will say this, and we're just gonna go from here. Like, I will say I care far more about what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and the job that I got to do day to day than caring about those national narratives. It's just not. You can be mindful of it. It's probably worth because there's a lot of smart people out there. But for me, all I can go off is what I see being out here in the sun, as you can tell, for 2 hours every day, watching every throw. It's all I really care about. It's just doing the job, based on, conversations and seeing it all that. If you ask me, how has JJ been? Like, you're okay. You say you're out there every day. You're watching him every day. You're getting sunburned every day. How has he been through training camp? It's a question that I get all the time, whether it's family knowing how much I care about the job or buddies or what have you. It's a question I get all the time. I think my reaction and my response and my summary headline takeaway would be exactly what JJ McCarthy would say, where there's been up and down. It's been an up and down training camp. There have not been like a daily crazy high 60-yard passes, 4 progression read completions. There hasn't been a lot of that. There also hasn't been the grave concerns where it's a ton of interceptions, whether it's arm strength's not working, whether he's not fitting the ball into windows. Like, those top and bottom ends of the spectrums, that is not where JJ McCarthy has been living throughout training camp. Like, there's been a lot of good. I'd say from a layering perspective, if you've listened to this show, we entered training camp. One of the things that I wrote a lot about, I talked a lot about, was can he improve getting the ball up and over? Essentially, like can he create and display more clubs in the bag? He might be able to, he can. We knew this at the time. Throw the fastball. Does he have the changeup off of it? Can he throw the curveball? Can he get the ball up and over toward the sideline to Jalen Naylor, atop a defender and in front of another defender? And the good, a lot of it has been like he's shown that in spades. There have been a ton of patterns out toward the sideline, even over the middle, where there was one, if I'm not mistaken, today to TJ Hawkinson down the pipe, down the middle of the field, where he feathers the ball up and over, perfectly placed, kind of back shoulder to TJ Hawkinson, where Blake Cashman, who was running the pipe as a middle linebacker, kind of a Tampa 2 look, couldn't intercept the pass, and it was a great throw and catch. Like that's a lot of the good. And then there has been some bad, and the area that's probably been most notable for me is, let's say the play breaks down and he gets out of the pocket and he's trying to fit a ball in, or he's trying to make a play, as opposed to, can he just run out of bounds for 5 yards, toss the ball to the ref, and move on to the next play? Like there was an instance on Wednesday where, he was looking to his left, didn't look like much it was kind of cloudy over there, looks back over the middle of the field, tries to fit it into Jordan Addison, and Blake Cashman intercepts it. And everybody was frustrated, including J.J. McCarthy, because he knows he's got to be better in those spots where you have points secured. And so like that point of, the field position in the red zone, early in downs, when you can live to fight to see another down, those are the instances where there's like, you can just tell that there will be growth in those areas, because that the coaching staff, Kevin O'Connell, Josh McCown, Jordan Traylor, whoever it is internally, like those are reps from practice that are going to be worth discussing. And there's so many dynamics. Like J.J. McCarthy out of the pocket, he does have a live arm. So he probably does think he can make a play. And the more you try and fail, the more a guy like him, who is as invested as he obviously is, learns. So like the two things dovetailing off of it that have been on my mind. The first is like, is living in these middle areas as opposed to the top or the bottom, like, is that going to be good enough for this team, which is very talented? And it might be. Like, that's the more you watch the front seven of this team, and the more you see this run game with the two-back punch of Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, if you're sitting there being like, well, all he has to do is mitigate a lot of the negatives, and the roster around him is good enough to rise to a certain level, and so they still should be pretty good. If that's what you're saying, like, I totally get that perspective, and I might even buy into that perspective. So I think that's part of it, is like, because he's on the rookie contract and because he is still 22 years old, in his second training camp of his NFL career, you talk to any quarterback who's played, like, you just get more comfortable over time, because he is that way. To expect him to live at this top of the spectrum, at the top of, the 10 out of 10 every single day, every single throw, that would be foolish. And then because he's not living there, it's okay in the long term for his development, which matters most. And then even if he doesn't, this team might be talented enough, and the infrastructure around him might be solid enough to where it's fine in general. The other thing I've been thinking about is, like, I still haven't seen him take a real life hit from a pass rusher humming at him. And so Saturday, when he's back there, it's not like I'm worried that one hit and he will collapse, but like that's another element of this that we haven't really seen. I mean, I've said this on the radio, and it's also been something swirling in my mind. Like last year, joint practices in Cleveland. That was August. That was early August. I remember Sam Darnold having a brutal first day, and the offense had a brutal first day. He couldn't connect with Justin. Like Martin Emerson was playing corner. Zadarius Smith is hollering from the sidelines at the Vikings offense, and it really wasn't great. And if you came away from that practice thinking, like that it was just going to be, the season was going to be a disaster, you were obviously proven wrong. And had they been amazing that day, to think that they were going to be amazing, that would have been wrong as well. So it's just, it's not probably the sexiest or spiciest take. It's not, it might not be worth, put on social media or what have you. But again, I kind of come back to this. Like, if you ask JJ how he's been thus far, I guarantee you he would say there have been good moments, there have been bad moments, got to continue to do some of the great things he's doing, got to continue to weed out some of the bad things that he's doing. Like, that's how and that's just been kind of the situation. Now, it'll be interesting Saturday against a defense that is not moving around the way that this one is. Like, I asked JJ on Wednesday, how excited are you to see another defense? And he laughed before crediting D'Amico Ryans and talking about how much success they've had over there and that it's not going to be easy. But there's no question what he's seeing now, and I've said this many times over, is as good of a simulation for what he's for what he's about to endure and go through over the course of this season as anything else. And this pass rush, I mean, you talk to people internally, like, it is not just something that's evident to me as a media member standing on the awning next to the practice field. Like, this pass rush has given the offensive line a very difficult time throughout camp. And so again, you say that, and then maybe, people take that as, well, does that mean the offensive line is, you can play this back and forth game until no end, but I can convincingly tell you that internally this pass rush has raised eyebrows. They invested in it, obviously, with Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, but it's even, Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez. It's the depth of the room and just how much pressure they've been applying that has made this really, really, really tough to evaluate in general. So there was a sequence on Thursday, 2-minute drill, kind of did in practice. The second team offensive line holds up in front of Sam Howell, and that was probably the best that he's looked throughout training camp on this 2-minute drill. And you could tell afterwards that everybody was pretty satisfied that the offensive line held up, giving the quarterback the requisite time. So again, that 13 minutes or how, whatever it is of evaluation, like, it may not be, raise eyebrows, not going to be circulated on social media, all of that stuff. All I know is that's what I've seen. That's my read on it. And I'll continue to watch every day out here, just like I always am. So that'll end the JJ portion of the proceedings, and we will segue. Nick also asked about the run game, what I've seen in training camp, and the first and foremost, the caveat is without live tackling and with one team facing each other, like, it is difficult to evaluate the run game. But a couple things have stood out to me. I feel like we've seen more of the run game throughout this training camp period than I can remember. I don't have the numbers on that. It's anecdotal, so maybe I'm, the bias is seeping in, but that's something. Jordan Mason, here's the thing I'd say about Jordan Mason. He is a massive body. He's obviously bigger than Aaron Jones. But the thing that impresses me often watching him is the vision is just very impressive. And you can have the big body in the red zone, but you got to find creases quickly and decisively. And he has that ability. And then there have been, it feels like from a run scheme perspective, and I don't want to get too in the weeds on it. But there have been snaps with pullers. There have been shotgun run, which is not something we've seen a ton. There's been some pitches, some fake handoffs. And then the addendum of the run game is the screen game. They've executed screens pretty well. And it's not really a surprise because you now have interior offensive linemen who have experience and are very just instinctual on the field. And that can only help a screen game where you got to, like, there are rules, but it's also pretty free out there in terms of finding defenders to block. So it's, I guess, like, again, you want to see it in the preseason game, and then you really want to see it when the season starts behind the offensive line. Like, can they get a push? I will say Donovan Jackson, that's felt like the area that he's been most comfortable in, which probably isn't a surprise because he was effective as a run blocker in college. But yeah, that's how I'd answer the question about the run game. Egregious Philbin, great name. Who's the one player we aren't talking about but should? That was an interesting question to consider. Like, I could go a lot of ways with it. Isaiah Rodgers is one of them, probably. He's just, like, occupied the number 2 cornerback spot all camp and looked like every bit the part. Isaiah Rodgers, it's ball skills down the field. It's competitiveness at the catch point. It's speed, swag. Like, he's just shown everything you'd hope a guy that they signed to be a key piece of that of the cornerback room to be. That's kind of the obvious one. The other one I was thinking about, haven't talked at all about Eric Wilson, the former Viking, obviously, that the team signed as a backup linebacker and special teams contributor. Just feels like he's been in the right place at the right time. Think he'll play a huge role in special teams. And you probably have more conviction if you got to throw him in there due to injury, due to an injury like to a Blake Cashman or Ivan Pace, than you would have had conviction in a Kamu Grugier-Hill. So just kind of like, I just haven't mentioned him much. Kind of a lower key signing, but I know the Packers were not, they didn't love losing him, and just a guy who has just looked every bit the part of a professional early on. So that was probably a name. The other one is more like unheralded. Bo Richter made the team last year, and he was great on special teams. But as a pass rusher, just in terms of explosiveness, get off the line of scrimmage, and then even shown some moves, like a spin move I can remember the other day. I just wouldn't be shocked if Bo Richter on Saturday against the Texans just had a day. That's what I'd say. Maybe he won't. I don't know. That's what do you know, guy? But that really would not surprise me. The next question was one of my favorites. Let me see. I got to find this. It was very, 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 very good. It was about Jalen Redmond, and it was. Let's find it here. Yeah, here we go. Skullchester, would you expect Jalen Redmond to change numbers from 61 to a nicer defensive lineman number once the roster is cut down? It's a great question. He might be wearing 61 for reasons that I don't know about. It's something I plan to ask, actually. But with the way he's performed, not just this training camp, not just in the spring, but going back to last year, you got to get, 61 for a defensive lineman who can wreak a little bit of havoc just feels a little unfair. And as I've been on the record of being a big numbered guy, wouldn't be surprised to see that one change unless there is a significance behind 61 that I probably should know about. Corey Fox, one of my buddies, asked, how excited or are you excited for the State Fair? I like the State Fair. Went a couple times last year. You got to go with the good group, and then you just got to know what you're getting yourself into. That's really it. I'm not the biggest crowds guy. But look, you got to kind of have that experience. You got to smell the pigs and the hogs and all that stuff. You got to eat an alligator on a stick. I will say they had this, I think it was a Grain Belt blueberry beer that I really loved. And if that's in bottles or cans, you can let me know in the comments. But yeah, I am excited for the State Fair. I'll probably go out there with PA at some point and be on KFAN, and then I'll probably go out with buddies and drink more than I'm willing to admit on this show. Next question is about Ty Felton. It comes from Tyler Nawrocki. Hope I said that right. Probably did not. He asked, how has Ty Felton grasped the offense and his routes? It's a good question, and it probably allows me to just say, like, Kevin O'Connell, it's huge on being able to trust guys in this offense to know the playbook, to run motions. And so that's often why young guys, specifically at this position, like it can take some time for guys to learn. I talked to Ty Felton one of the first days of training camp, was really impressed just by his attitude and how much he seemed to be embracing it. He hasn't taken a ton of snaps, with the first team, even without Justin Jefferson, and like oftentimes it'll be like Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, and Lucky Jackson. You don't really get a ton of Ty Felton there. He's mostly been confined to a group with like Tim Jones and Jay Sean Jones. And I'd say the one thing with him that I'm just eyeing and monitoring is the drops. Like there have been probably more than you'd want to see during this training camp, and even going back to the spring with that. But yeah, I mean, he's probably swimming in the playbook. There is it's a steep learning curve for him coming from Maryland, and he's not going to be unless the depth absolutely thrusts him into a spot. I expect a lot of this year to be special teams, whether he's returning kicks or running as a gunner, kick return, that like those are the areas that that's where I'm looking for Ty Felton this year. And then probably by the end of the season or next spring, next training camp, like that's the point at which you'd really probably start to want to see the progression from a receiver standpoint. And I mean, admittedly, without Jordan Addison, he could be thrust in the spot and you'd have to perform. But that's kind of my view with Ty Felton. Let's see here. Next question from Blemethy Chalamet. LDR looking as good as it looks like he's looking. He's talking about Levi Drake Rodriguez. He really stood out to me this week. Beginning Monday night at the night practice, there were some one-on-ones where he's just firing off. And he's a battering ram. Like it is just chaos internally when he's in there running a stunt in there. But yeah, he's definitely, and then Tuesday or Wednesday, it was Wednesday. As you can tell, I'm just all over the days right now, having been out the facility every day. You can tell, he looks more confident for sure. And so, like, he's another guy who, if Saturday against the Texans, he's just wrecking shop in the middle, it's just not going to be that surprising. And it's cool to see. Like, this guy's an unbelievable story. He's joyful. He's like a personality. But, I mean, you talk to coaches who spent time around him at Texas A&M Commerce, and it's just, mind-blowing how a guy like that could find his way to a place like this. So, yeah, Levi Drake Rodriguez, I'll definitely be watching him Saturday. Let's see. D. Matthias asks, does it seem like there's any concern about Reichard? I know he went 6 for 6 Monday, but wasn't perfect any days before that. No, I don't sense any major concern with Will Reichard. Like you said, he went 6 for 6 Monday. That was big, mostly because if he struggles in front of so many fans taking videos at the night practice, then you got the optics and the narratives, and that's just what's going to happen. But no, I do think Will learned a lot from last year in terms of workload and ramp up and the NFL season and all that. And so, like, he's a sharp enough, keen enough guy to where if he felt like he's not peaking right now and he's trying to really ramp up towards the end to be ready, like that wouldn't be a surprise to me, just knowing kind of the way he likes to prepare his body and has definitely after last year, but even going back to college at Alabama. So, no, this doesn't seem like there's any major concern. Brinson Thompson asks, any updates with Ivan Pace? No, he's still the Tasmanian Devil, blitzing wildly through the A-gap on a Thursday, August 7th practice in shells. Like, that's Ivan Pace. That's always Ivan Pace. He's probably not ever going to be the Fred Warner coverage linebacker. It's just not his wheelhouse. But if you need a guy to rush the passer, if you need a guy to just make things very difficult for running backs and pass protection, if you need a guy who's willing to knife his way into very small creases with very large offensive linemen, he's your guy for that. Dustin Roberts, if there was a Jersey Mike sub that was a comp for Justin Jefferson, what would it be? I don't know. I mean, Justin Jefferson, he is, I don't know if it's the chicken bacon ranch. I mean, just something you go to at all times and feel very comfortable, but also it's got some flair to it. Like that's Justin. DJ MN Sports Suffering, what matchup are you most excited to see in joint practices? Great question. It'll probably be, I'd say, I'll be watching the Vikings defensive front to see if they have their way as much as they're having their way right now, or have had their way right now in training camp. That Patriots offensive line just does not have the level of aptitude, experience that these Vikings do. And so, if Brian Flores is willing to unleash things, it could be messy for the Patriots offense. That's probably what I'm looking at. Frenchie22, can you talk about the differences between Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave? Different positions, strengths, weaknesses. Don't know squat about them. They're both, in three technique type of guys, not head up over the nose tackle. Both pretty quick twitch. I almost, and this could be, this is amateur evaluation here, but Javon Hargrave to me feels more of win with quickness, just suddenness, and Jonathan Allen is more of the technique, refinement. Both of Jonathan Allen carries himself with a professionalism that just stands out. You guys are going to laugh at me saying this, but he wears a headband every day with the Alabama Crimson Tide logo and is almost like he's carrying the process, hard work from Nick Saban's time with him. And then Javon Hargrave, haven't talked to him, heard that he's a pretty soft-spoken guy. But both of those guys, they're different. They can both hold up against the run, and they just offer a level of just invoking fear in the opposing interior offensive line in a way that the Vikings haven't had from the pass rush other than their blitz looks over the last couple of years. And so that's why I've been as praiseworthy as I have on it. Jason at Spartus JX, how has Donovan Jackson looked overall? I've talked about it a little bit in the run game. It looks like he's doing what was expected of him in the pass game. Look, there have been some one-on-one reps where he's going up against a Javon Hargrave and he's losing quickly. But Kevin O'Connell, his evaluation is look, even when he's losing fairly quickly, he's fighting to find position to give the quarterback a little bit more of a tick. And that's something, obviously, with Ed Ingram that just didn't happen. I'd also say with Donovan Jackson, you can tell, mentally, he has it. He can get there. It's really just going to be interesting to see if, from an Acre perspective, technique, can he be as consistent as possible in pass pro, and we'll evaluate that over time. And if he plays in the preseason game and joint practices and all that stuff. Let's see what else we can hit on before we hop out of here. Lil John 028, do you think they will add cornerback depth or trade for a receiver before the season starts? He says he wants Adam Thielen 19 and to bring him home. The Thielen thing, I haven't done any work on that. It'll be interesting. The receiver depth, I'll start with. Jalen Naylor showed up last year after Jordan Addison injured his ankle against the New York Giants and was capable. And although he had some key drops throughout the season and did muff the punt against Green Bay, like the expectations have been pretty high that he can shoulder a considerable workload. Now, he kind of like Ty Felton, like there have been more drops from him in training camp that you'd want to see. That's just the facts of the matter. And if they are going to rely upon him as much as they are, he's just got to be rock solid. Lucky Jackson, like he's probably going to get an opportunity Saturday to show what he's shown in training camp, which has been pretty impressive. He's in his third year here now. He knows the system. And so really it's going to be a matter of like, how much does Kevin O'Connell, how comfortable is he using 21 personnel, 12 personnel, either a fullback or two tight ends where you don't really need to have that third receiver on the field, even in third down looks, versus how much do they really feel like they need that guy, and that may push them over the edge in terms of acquisition. They obviously have the cap space for it. The cornerback depth one is a little more glaring to me. Like Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers, that's your top two. Jeff Okudah has had a very good camp. I talked to Durante Jones, one of the defensive pass game coordinator who's interviewed for DC jobs in the past and is probably in line for one at some point. And Durante, like he said, they've enjoyed watching Jeff. He's had a good camp. He's been most of the time he's been the third cornerback, kind of in nickel. It doesn't feel like they're making him run all over the field, just kind of making him use his hands and toughness and physicality and all that. But I mean, for him, it's can he stay healthy? Can he, continue to prove it? And then behind him is where the depth question, is one that I have. I mean, Mekhi Blackman has shown some stuff, and this will be a big Saturday for him, without question. And then, Dwight McGlothern's had made some interceptions. The ball skills aren't a question, but I said this on Dan Barrera on KFAN, like how much confidence is Brian Flores really going to have in week 3 against Cincinnati if he has to put Dwight McGlothern in there, even if they're playing just zone against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, that is just probably not a place you want to be. And then I've liked Zamiah Vaughn, the undrafted corner, but similarly, like he just needs time. He probably needs to bulk up, and all of that stuff. So, yeah, I it's a spot where I always felt like they were going to enter training camp, kind of evaluate, see through the preseason. Do guys stay healthy? How do guys look? And then is there someone to go find? And so that's a continuous, that's still an evaluation point and a question that is probably worth following as time moves on. That'll probably do it. We'll end it there, and we'll be back early next week with some thoughts from the preseason game, some guests and stuff like that. But appreciate you guys being here, listening to the Alec Lewis Show. If it's your first time you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, rate, review on Spotify or Apple or iHeart, wherever you get your podcast. Support First Resource Bank, which is run by some Vikings fans, and then keep locked into The Athletic. I said it. Got something next week. Pretty excited about. Think you guys will enjoy it. And then we'll have comprehensive coverage from Saturday's preseason game against the Texans. That'll do it for episode 102. I am Alec Lewis, and we will talk to you guys very, very soon.